If you've been following our Centennial State Parks trek, you've probably seen a lot of snow and ice and cold, and so have we. So we moved to an inside park. The Outdoor Adventure Center is a little bit of a misnomer because it's actually inside. It was designed to give you a taste of Michigan's great outdoors in the heart of the city, in this case, downtown Detroit.
It's located along the Riverwalk, and it's, a really up-and-coming area in Detroit as part of Detroit's rebirth. So it's nice that they were able to take this old factory building and redo it, and they've really done an impressive job with bringing the outdoors inside, at least to give you a taste. It's not exactly like the outside
exactly.
woods, but it is a taste. And especially if you have kids who, have lived in the city all their lives and have never been to northern Michigan, it's kind of a neat way to, I think, pique their interest and maybe
it's a good way to introduce them. I mean, if you've never been on a snowmobile or an ATV or seen some of the wildlife that you might encounter in, say, the Upper Peninsula, it gives you a good taste and feel of what you might see and do. So if you do get a chance that you might want to, take a trip somewhere.
And the city of Detroit, after its bankruptcy from a few years ago, really is trying to turn itself around. It has really started to clear out some of the old houses and blighted buildings, and they're trying to build new stuff. And the Outdoor Adventure Center and the whole Riverwalk area is a great example of that. And hopefully we'll see that start to expand throughout the rest of the city and into the neighborhoods.
Right. One of the cool things about this is they built it in the old Globe building, which back in the 1800s was actually the Detroit Shipbuilding Company, and a couple other manufacturing things that produced engines for marine ships and other things. And in fact, Henry Ford even worked there in his early days before he set out on his own. So it's definitely a big part of Detroit's history, and so the fact that we were able to salvage it and repurpose it into something cool, I think that's what makes it really special.
Yeah, we mentioned it's located down by the Riverwalk. It's actually right across the street from the William G. Milliken State Park and Harbor that we've done a video on already. There is a fenced parking lot that's located right nearby the building, and you can actually park there and walk over to the Milliken Park, or you can walk into the Outdoor Adventure Center and kind of get a taste of the outdoors inside, which we found was a lot warmer the day we were there.
Yeah, definitely a nice change from the cold and the snow that we'd been experiencing for the last couple months here in Michigan. One of the cool things about this is it's definitely a family-friendly activity, more designed for little kids, those, again, who would maybe not have seen some of these animals in the wilderness, maybe not had a chance to go camping, but there definitely was a little bit of everything for everybody. From a family adventure on a cold Saturday day, I think it was definitely something that we saw a lot of people headed in and out throughout the day.
Yeah, and they do try to keep families in mind. I don't think the admission price is very high. It's I think $5, $4. It was something like that.
Three for kids and seniors?
Yeah, little kids are cheaper. They do things like offering complimentary lockers, right? So having free lockers, especially when you have a family there, is a really nice touch because you can put your stuff in the locker, especially if it's in the wintertime and you don't have to carry your coats around. And then they try to do these, displays that people and kids especially can interact with, like these little campfires and that sort of thing.
Yep, and as I mentioned, because it was an old building, you've got still a lot of the architecture that's visible. They have a little display to show you what the building used to look like, but as you walk around the place, you can see all the old beams and the floor and the ceiling and get a taste of what the building might have looked like when it was built in the 1800s.
One of the other state parks, there's actually 3 of them in the city of Detroit, is Belle Isle. And on Belle Isle is an aquarium. And I thought it was cool they brought part of the aquarium into the Outdoor Adventure Center because they do have this big tank with a lot of the different fish that you find in the Great Lakes. Some that we expected and others that we didn't realize were in the Great Lakes before.
Right, there's apparently the sturgeon, which I know we have sturgeon in the lakes, but I'm not sure I'd ever actually seen one in person. To see this big sturgeon that's about as big as I am was a bit of a surprise. That was something, even as a lifelong Michigander, I realized that I had no clue on because I'm not a fisherman by any means.
They had the muskie on display, which was almost as big as you, and then we found on the other side they have the sturgeon, which I didn't realize is something that's been around since the dinosaurs.
It's kind of a creepy looking creature.
Dinosaurs in the Detroit River?
Yeah, I used to like swimming in the Great Lakes, but I think I'm going to rethink that plan. The way it's laid out is really neat. You've got the fishing section, you've got a camping section, and as you go through throughout the center, you've got different things about sand dunes and habitats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's a lot of parks. I'm assuming there's 103 on that map, but I don't really want to stand here and count them all. So let's just say by the time we're done this year, that's where we'll have been.
This is a yurt. You're not a yurt.
I'm not.
This is a Jessie. Behind a Jessie. Behind the Jessie is a yurt, which you can now rent at some of the state parks in Michigan.
Hi there. You could stay in a yurt. That would be fine.
Another section is dedicated to more of the water sports, and so there's a kayak simulator and there's a fishing simulator that you can take part in, and you went for a ride on that and seemed to have fun, and I tried out some of the fishing. Is it like the real thing?
It's totally like the real thing. You don't get wet this way, though.
I have to admit, I'm not much of a fisherman, but I thought the fishing simulator was a lot more realistic than I expected. When the line goes and you're supposed to be tugging to catch the fish and pull it in, it actually took a lot more strength than I realized, and I was still worried about some of the little kids trying it out that they were going to get pulled overboard, although there's nothing for them to fall into.
No, but I found that too. I ended up bracing it against my leg. I wasn't expecting it to be, I guess, as real as it was, considering I'm pretty sure the only fishing that I've done is in the back of my grandparents' creek. So, yeah, catching sunfish is a little bit different than catching salmon.
Yeah, and I did catch a salmon, but we did not get to enjoy it over the campfire later. The Outdoor Adventure Center is not that realistic yet.
No, but that was a lot of fun, and I do think it is a good taste for the kids that maybe not have had a chance to experience that before.
As you walk out into the main section, it was really kind of, I don't know if it was awe-inspiring, but it was, I mean, it's such a big building, and they've done so many things to try to give you the different parts of nature. I mean, they even put a waterfall inside for people to kind of see and experience, and it's just kind of a cool feel in there, I guess.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to expect. I knew it was this big building, but until I actually got in there and walked, into that waterfall area, I realized what an expanse of and how much work they put into this. It's as realistic as you can get to bring the outdoors indoors, but I think that they did a really good job with it, and just a lot to offer, whether that's, some of the wildlife that's on display. I mean, I know they're not real, but they're pretty cool and pretty realistic looking.
Well, and I think it's, definitely set up so that it's more for smaller kids to kind of have fun at, not necessarily something adults would go to on a weekend just to kind of hang out. But if you have family, if you have kids, you should take them here, have them check it out. They do a good job, though, of you get the kids interested in hands-on type stuff to keep them busy. And then they also have plenty of information there, and it kind of teases the adults to say, hey, maybe we should take a trip up north, or, go camping or do something like that.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. It does give you a little bit of history, but it's not exactly like going to a museum, because it's more designed for sort of that hands-on initial taste and feel to get you interested and want to go outside. So whether that's learning about the mining and the copper industry in northern Michigan, or it's maybe learning about the sand dunes and the beaches and what they have to offer. I know I learned a few things that day that I didn't know about, but it's definitely more of a, just little kid interactive type place.
The other thing you'll find is that they tried to tie the whole place together pretty well. So you move from section to section, but you'll see that, the sections are connected in different ways, because maybe you're looking back at something, or you're seeing something from another angle because you've gone upstairs, or you've moved somewhere else in the building, but you're still seeing something on the other side and from a different way. And so that was kind of neat the way they tied it all together.
It's a vegetarian hot dog.
Is this what it's like when you go camping?
This is totally what it's like when I go camping, flat steaks. Not really sure what this is. Yum. Can we carry one of these in the van?
I don't think one of those will fit in the Class B RV. I'm going to have to move up to a Class A for that.
Put it in the trailer out back. One of the cool features is this really large tree that takes up a good portion of the center of the exhibit. And it does tie in, like you said, to some of the different things, whether it's the walkway or the plane or some of the different exhibits. But it gives kids a little sense that they can climb up in this giant tree There's a little slide. There's just a couple different things for them to do, and it really kind of demonstrates like how big the forests are in Michigan, and how vast and expanse they are. The truly Michigan's mighty forests. It just said you had to be under adult supervision. It did not say that the adults could not enjoy it as well. Insider tip, for those of you over 5 feet tall, you're really not missing anything by not climbing in the tree. It really is just a stairway that takes you to the little slide, or you can climb all the way up to the top and then you end up on the suspension bridge that leads you over to the plane section of the Adventure Center.
The suspension bridge is actually kind of cool, especially for little kids. It's something fun for them to do, and it's a neat way to connect, again, different sections of the Outdoor Adventure Center where you don't have to keep going up and down stairs. You can kind of go up and then across and see other things. They also try to bring the animal kingdom inside so you can see different things, including a bear den that I found you had climbed into at one point.
What? That's not creepy.
You're in a bear den.
Yeah, with a bear butt, apparently. It's a good bench.
I thought it was neat the way they tried to turn everything into a learning experience. So even the stairway, they have different informational pieces on each of the stairways going up, because there's 4 flights, there's 4 stories to this building.
There's a lot of stairs.
There's a lot of stairs, and so like one of them has Michigan by the number, so it talks about acreage and water and all that kind of thing. And then there's another one that talks about the different types of animals, the state mammal, the state bird, that sort of thing. There's just I think there's one that's dedicated to water and fish. It was just a neat way to it gives kids something to do, and they don't realize they're learning as they're reading this stuff going up the stairs.
Yeah, it's just, I really thought it was neat how, in addition to the interactive exhibits, there is just some different ways about learning how the DNR takes care of the natural resources of the state. So whether that's learning how to compost or taking care of a beehive, learning about counting frogs, they had a number of just different displays to teach you about what there is in Michigan and, how we can be better stewards of our resources.
One of the cool things on display there is this plane that they used to use. They used to fly over the forests to do surveys and check different things out. And so that was neat to be able to see there. You actually get to climb into the plane, and they have Smokey Bear.
Yeah, that was really cool. This was definitely a costume that somebody had used probably for different exhibits at state parks over time. One of the things that they do talk about in the center is different conservation habits. And one of those includes, animal management, so deer hunting per se. They've got a little exhibit with a hunter and a deer and some other wildlife set up so you can kind of experience, maybe what it would be like to be out in the woods. And then they've got different animal pelts and footprints and things on display to show you, what the harvesting traditions were like, what a fox, what a skunk, what a rabbit or a coyote looked like. If you've never seen those animals, they've got little paw prints and cement tracks that you can see if you were out in the woods, what tracking would look like.
They have a couple of video games, right? You got to draw in the younger generation. You got to try I guess it was Dove Hunter. We didn't know at the time what you were shooting other than it was
It's like
birds.
The old Nintendo duck hunting game, right? We all played that.
Yeah, unfortunately we found that one of them was broken, and so I didn't get to try out the program called Extreme Squirrel, and I really, really wanted to try that one.
I really want to know what that was. The dove hunting took a little bit just because I wasn't exactly sure what I was supposed to be doing at first, but the little kids that came after me did way better than I did.
This is another way where they've tried to tie everything together. So there's a section where you can go into what looks like a deer blind. When you get in there, there's a way for you to interact with the animals that are on display across the way.
Yeah, they've got these like iPad contraptions set up where you're supposed to aim the camera at the animals up on the ridge, and it identifies them, gives you some facts about them, and it's a little timed game, so you're supposed to find all 22 of them in a certain amount of time. Unfortunately, we found that it just wasn't working quite right, or the iPads themselves weren't, I guess you'd say, angled in such a way that you could hit all of the animals. So I was only able to complete about half of them because I couldn't get the pad to move. So I don't know if that was user error or if they've just been used over time and it's just not working correctly.
I think it's one of those situations where there's a lot of neat things in here, but it's all interactive. And as it gets used over time, the state is going to have to really step up its game and make sure they do the proper maintenance so that when people go to the Outdoor Adventure Center, everybody gets to experience everything in proper working order.
That's true. Otherwise, they'll get really frustrated, even like we found with the extreme squirrel game. I mean, that's something that, more people could be found. The one thing that I did want to note was that they do have these different exhibits, whether it's a little ORV or a snowmobile or there's some biking, but that there's only one of everything, so only one or two people can experience them at any given time.
Way up on the top floor, they have this really cool video display. It's supposed to be you're flying like an eagle over different parts of the state, and it's originally set up, I think, so that if you flap your arms, the wings on the eagle are supposed to flap. We never saw any little kids get it to work. I don't know if they were too small or if it wasn't working quite correctly. You were going to try it, and then you stepped aside to let a little girl have her turn instead, so that was very nice of you to do that. But it's kind of
more little kids showed up, and I never got my turn.
Right, well, nice guys finish last. That's what happens.
Even though I didn't get my turn and we weren't sure if it was working correctly, the video itself was really cool. I was just enthralled standing there watching it because it was some really cool flyovers of the Detroit River and the Tequamanon Falls area. So that alone was well worth just watching it, if nothing else. We also found this really cool beaver den, and this is another one where being vertically challenged is helpful because I was able to climb inside and see what was going on in there. And it's just a couple little taxidermy type beavers looking like they're building their nest. But it was kind of cool and just, again, a unique experience that not everybody would get to see.
Cool enough for you to get a selfie.
You always have to take a selfie.
In addition to the sights that you would see out in the woods, they also try to bring some of the sounds in, and I thought it was neat that in this one area they have, it's like a duck blind or something, right, that you can go into, and then you tried this out. It's like a book that you can touch the pictures and hear the birds.
Yeah, just on the display panel, and I was actually kind of surprised because I honestly wasn't expecting much, but all of them worked fine, and you could hear them really well. So as you touch the different birds, they started chirping and making the noises that they did, and it was a good way to see the difference between the sounds, and some of them I think we just take for granted that we hear out in the wilderness, but we don't actually know which birds are making which sounds. In addition to the regular exhibits going on there, on different weekends are other activities that you can do. So, for instance, one of the naturalists was giving a park actually across the street at the William G. Milliken State Park, where she was going to walk people through a little bit of the history and different things that you could see and do around there. They have on their website a whole list of different activities on the upcoming weekends of special exhibits and events and tours and things that they're offering. So I thought that was really unique, that it's a way to bring people back who maybe have already been there, but they might want to participate in some of the special events that are going on.
Well, and we picked a random Saturday and got really lucky because they happened to be making syrup, and then found a way to show us all how you could use that to make maple candy or maple taffy.
Oh my gosh, that was so good.
So that was really tasty, and that was definitely a reason to come back if they ever do that again. If for no other reason, I'll go back and have some maple taffy.
Yeah, so I would definitely encourage you to check out their website and their calendar. We didn't really have a choice, or we didn't really think about it when we went, but once we started looking at it, we realized that they offer a ton of different exhibits or activities on different weekends. So check it out if there's something that you're particularly interested in going to.
So overall, a fun place to take a family in Detroit.
Yeah, just a couple things to note. They are closed on Mondays and Tuesdays, and there's really no food there. They have a vending machine, but that's about it. So just a couple things to keep in mind. But I definitely think if you're in the Detroit area and you have some little ones and need a break, it's a good place to go and have a fun family day.